Welcome. Come on in. Make yourselves comfortable. Right now, I see a cat coming in and I see a couple of other people coming in, but I'd like to welcome you as you come in to listen to the great Jerry Bryant, who I have never heard at great length myself, although I understand he specializes in Down East songs, which are dear to my heart. I sing a lot of songs from Maine myself, because that's where my family came from. And I hear from everything that I've heard or I can see, he's a multi instrumentalist. He has two classic albums out. Uh, he's well known to you people from this area, but one reason I came to this wonderful folk festival is so that I could get to know some of the musicians who play up here a lot better than I do already. And I think he's a great person to kick off my experience of the Portsmouth Folk Festival. All of the rest of you, I urge you to contribute to the bucket list, if you will, to make a donation. Have we got a donation list up, donation entry up in the chat? It will be up shortly, and you should feel very free to make a donation to the festival because even though it's a free festival for the likes of us, it costs quite a bit to run, and we need to have money in the till to make it possible for us to do it well in the future. And without further ado, let's bring on Jerry Bryant.
Thank you, Lisa. So, streaming directly from Amherst, Massachusetts to your personal screen. Woo! I've got 50 minutes. Well, now it's 45 minutes to to share some of my favorite songs with you. So this is going to be kind of a potpourri hodgepodge set of just some wonderful sea songs and things like that. I encourage you to sing along. I encourage you to enjoy, and we'll get through to the end on Waves of Song. I'm going to start with a song that began life as a poem. It's called Homeward Bound. It was written by an Australian guy named D.H. Rogers, and it was set to music at some point by John Broomall. I learned this from the singing of Gordon Bach, and I changed the arrangement quite a bit. And when he heard me perform it, he said, "Well, that's quite different." But I like the energy and the salty imagery in this one. So let's get going. They will take us from the moorings, they'll tow us down the bay, they'll pluck us up to windward when we go. We will hear the keen wind whistle and we'll feel the sting of spray when we've dropped the deep sea pilot o'er the rail. Then it's Johnny heave and starter and it's Johnny roll and go. When the mates have picked the watches, there's little rest for Jack. And we'll raise the good old shanty that the homeward bounders know, for the girls have got the tow rope and they're hauling in the slack. Through the dusty streets and dismal and the noises of the town, we can hear the west wind humming through the shrouds, and we'll see the lightning leaping as the tropic suns go down and the dabble of the shadows of the clouds. And the salt blood dances in us to the tune of Homeward Bound, to the call to weary watches, to the sheet and to the tack. When they bid us man the caps, how the hands will walk around, for the girls have got the tow rope and they're hauling in the slack. From From the sunshine of the tropics round the bleak and dreary Horn, half across this windy planet lies our way. And we'll leave the land behind us like a welcome that's outworn when we see the reeling masthead swing and sway. Through weather fair and stormy, in the calm and in the gale, we'll heave and haul to help her, we'll keep her on her track. And we'll hear the chorus rolling as all hands are making sail, for the girls have got the tow rope and they're hauling in the slack. Heave away, haul away, heave away, haul away. And we are underway. Thank you. Nothing like a good poem set to music, and that's a source of many new sea songs, particularly the works of Cicely Fox Smith. I'll be doing one of hers in a couple of minutes. But first, I'm going to step back and go to an old song. We don't really know how old this particular song is. Sometimes it's really hard to tell with an old folk song where it came from, how old it is, and all of those details. But I love the imagery in this. It's a bit about cross-dressing or transvestitism, which was an option some women took back in those days of strict gender roles. And she didn't get what she thought she wanted, but she ended up getting something even better, as you'll hear. So the song is titled after the port they're sailing for. I don't think there's really a port called Canada, I.O., but that's the name of the song. Oh, it's all a fair and a handsome girl, all in her tender years. She fell in love with a sailor lad, and it's true she loved him well. For to go off to the sea with him, well, she did not know how. She longed to see that seaport town called Canada, I.O. So she's bargained with a young sailor boy, it's all for a piece of gold. Straight away then he's led her all down into the hold, saying, I'll dress you up in sailor's clothes, your jacket shall be blue, and you will see that seaport town called Canada, I.O. Oh, but when the crew, they heard the news, well, they fell into a rage, and with all of the whole ship's company, they were willing to engage, saying, we'll tie her hands and feed my boys, and overboard we'll throw her, and she'll never see that seaport town called Canada, I.O. Oh, but when the captain he's heard the news, well, he too fell in a rage, and with all of the whole ship's company, he was willing to engage, saying she'll stay all in sailor's clothes, her collar shall be blue, and she will see that seaport town called Canada, I.O. And when they've come into Canada, it's scarce full half a year. She's married to this bold captain who's called her his dear. She's dressed in silks and satins now, and she cuts a gallant show. She's the finest of the ladies down in Canada, I.O. So come all you fair and you tender girls, wheresoever you may be, I'd have you to follow your own true love when you go out on the sea. For if a sailor proves false to you, well, the captain might prove true. You see the honor I have gained by the wearing of the blue. So the young lady made out okay in the end. I'm guessing that the silks and satins were a little more comfortable than the slop trousers and and sea wet wool jerseys that the sailors had to wear. So she probably made out pretty good in the end. Now to Cicely Fox Smith. So C.F. Smith, as she was known in her publishing days, because nobody would have read a book about sailing ships written by a woman back in the early 20th century, so she called herself C.F. instead of Cicely. But a wonderful body of work of nautical themed poetry, and many of our contemporary folk singers these days have turned her eminently musical lyrics into actual songs. This is one of my favorites of hers. It's called The Peaceable Mr. McGee, and it's a vivid portrait of a mate on a square rig sailing ship back in the 1840s, 1850s, when you had to be smart, but you also had to be tough. But Mr. McGee, as the mate sailing out of San Francisco, had a unique approach, and Cicely tells us all about it. Oh, peace and quiet's the motto for me, says Mr. Samuel S. McGee, otherwise known as Seaboot Sam. I'm a peaceable sort of a bloke, I am. Oh, peace and quiet's a hobby of mine, fighting and such like ain't my line. I tell you straight, I'm the kind of a cuss who's got no time for trouble and fuss. I don't want nobody making bother, not if it was my own born brother. Back chat's a thing my taste don't lean to, but when I get things fixed like I mean to, why, there ain't a peaceabler mate than me, sails out of Frisco, said Sam McGee. Then he spat in his fist and he hopped off the poop and he waltzed around with a yelling no whoop. He landed Ginger a clump on the chin, wearing an impudent kind of a grin. And he hammered the soul case out of Mike, laid Bill out with a marlin spike, chased Jake onto the topsail yard and he pummeled him up there good and hard. Then he jumped on Joe with his sea boots on for something or other that'd been and done. He fetched the helmsman a kick like a horse for letting the ship get off her course. Then he rubs his hands and he says he, peace and quiet are what suits me. I'm a peaceable sort of a bloke, I am. And don't you forget it, said Seaboot Sam. So don't be messing with Mr. Sam McGee.
What a delightful accent that was, Jerry.
I'm not sure what that is.
Delightful.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't. Sam, we don't know. It could have been a New Englander because there were so many officers and sailors in the maritime, U.S. maritime, back in the 1800s. It's a pretty remarkable contribution that Maine and New England made to the international shipping community. All right, back to the banjo for some real another story about a really tough officer and tough men. We've all heard the phrase iron men, wooden ships, and there's a lot of truth to that if you read the first person accounts of square rig sailing 200, 180 years ago. And this is a song I put together to tell the story of an attempted mutiny in 1859 aboard the Red Cross packet called the Dreadnought. The Dreadnought was a famous packet ship sailing between England and New York. and there was a infamous gang of Irish packet rats, sailors out of Liverpool, that decided they had a score to settle with the captain, whose name was Samuel Samuels. He was from Boston, and they decided they were going to kill him and steal the ship and turn pirates, but didn't turn out quite the way they hoped, because Captain Samuels was an extraordinary fella. So this is a true story. The only thing I left out was the dog, and I don't have time to get into that right now, but you can send me a note later and I can tell you all about that. It's called the Dreadnought Mutiny. Well, the North Atlantic packet ships could eat a man alive between their brass-bound skippers and their hard-case crews. But when you're on that westward run, fighting to survive, oh, it takes a rugged mob to pull her through. The packet rats of Liverpool, they'll give it all they've got before the wind or driving through a gale. The gang they call the Bloody 40 is the toughest of the lot, and no bucko mate has ever made 'em quail. Well, I've known the hottest captains, I've sailed with the toughest crews, I've shipped aboard a share of blood boats made, but I've never seen as big a row in all of my years at sea as when Captain Samuels met the Bloody 40. Samuel sailed Dreadnought for the Red Cross line. She was the smartest packet of her day. He sailed her from New York to Liverpool in record time, but he drove his men like oxen all the way. Many a poor sailor has toiled beneath his lash. You could give your all, and still he'd ask for more. And if you dared to cross him, you would never win that clash. The Bloody 40 looked to even up the score. I have known the hottest captains sail with the toughest crews, and I shipped aboard a share of blood boats made it. I've never seen as big a row in all of my years at sea as when Captain Samuels met the Bloody 40. The Dreadnought needed crewmen for the run back to New York, and the Bloody 40 signed on to a man. The magistrate warned Samuels they were up to evil work, but he said, I mean to break 'em if I can. Finnegan and Sweeney were the leaders of the gang, and tougher men I swear I've never met. They meant to steal the vessel as soon as 8 bells rang, but the old man wasn't daunted by the threat. Oh, I've known the hottest captains sail with the toughest crews, and I shipped aboard a share of blood boats made it. I've never seen as big a row in all of my years at sea as when Captain Samuels met the Bloody 40. The ship was just off Queenstown when the mutiny began, and the crew refused to haul the weather brace. Finnegan pulled out a knife and he cursed at the old man, calling him a coward to his face. Samuels with a pistol called the sailor's bluff. He stood alone, a rock against the tide. His officers soon proved that they were made of weaker stuff. The second mate alone stood by his side. him now, cried Sweeney, and send him straight to hell, as the bloody 40 surged to the attack. But just then a band of emigrants leapt forward with a yell, and with iron bars they held the 40 back. The sound of blows and cursing filled the summer's night, as the mutineers fell into a trap. They didn't know that Samuels was ready for a fight, and he'd armed a dozen duchies for the scrap. Oh, I've known the hottest captains, I've sailed with the toughest crews, and I shipped aboard my share of blood boats, matey. But I've never seen as big a row in all of my years at sea as when Captain Samuels met the bloody 40. Now the mutiny was over, and the captain had prevailed, but Finnegan alone would not repent. It took 10 hours in the sweat box before his spirit failed, and he begged for mercy, beaten down and spent. The remainder of the voyage, Samuels preached the holy word, and his sermons brought those hardened men to tears. And when the dreadnought docked, it was the strangest thing I've heard. The bloody 40 gave the old man 3 big cheers. Oh, I've known the hottest captains, I've sailed with the toughest crews, I've shipped aboard of my share of blood boats, matey. But I've never seen as big a row in all of my years at sea as when Captain Samuels met the bloody 40, as when bully Samuels met the bloody 40.
Wow.
Tough guys.
You have a comment in the chat that says powerful confrontation in this fine song.
Oh, thank you. And it's all true. That's one of the remarkable things. In the days when mutiny was a capital offense, you would be hung if you mutinied on any ship. They got to New York. Samuel said he wasn't going to press charges, that he'd converted them all and they'd never cause trouble again. So he was quite a guy. All right, we're gonna mellow out a little after that. And I want to present a modern song. This is by a woman named Lois Lyman, and it's about the famous four-masted schooners that for 50 plus years lay in the mud next to the little Maine village of Wiscasset. So, Lisa, I'm sure you've seen the old schooners as you cross the bridge on Route 1 over the Sheepsket River, just north of Wiscasset. These 2 old schooners sat there for years and years and years until they just fell apart, and the town had to take them apart and get rid of them in the late 90s. But this song was written in the 80s when they were still quite evocative. They sat there. They were gigantic ships, and it was just entrancing to just see this relic of the sailing ship era sitting there. And so Lois put this song together, and I had the privilege of performing last month at the Wiscasset Schooner Fest, their very first one, and it was the perfect place to sing this song. So I'm going to share it with you. It's called the Wiscasset Schooners. Do you remember sailing home before a dying summer breeze? Your topsails gleaming golden, setting sun behind the trees, and an osprey wheeling slowly through the shadows by the shore, where the towering cliffs of granite plunge 10 fathoms deep or more. and the eddies ebb and swirl down below. You were solid, built of Douglas fir and oak and yellow pine. 200 feet sailed by a crew that numbered only 9. Hauling lumber through your timber ports and dyewood from the south. Running home from Norfolk, bringing coal to heat the north, and whatever they could stow down below. But the winter is upon you now, and time is passing slow, and the tides ebb and flow down below. From Wiscasset to the China Lakes, the narrow gauge did run. To drive it northward to Quebec was old Frank Winter's plan. And schooners were to bring the cargo in to meet the train. When he found you lying at the docks, he brought you down to Maine. And up and down the Sheepscot you did go. But the winter is upon you now, and time is passing slow, and the tides ebb and flow down below. Oh, you served him well for 15 years, your canvas all unfurled, when New England sailing ships were found in ports around the world. But spars gave way to smokestacks, clouds of white to black and gray. There was nothing left for you to do but waste your time away, and the rot was spreading slow down below. But the winter is upon you now, and time is passing slow, and the tides ebb and flow down below. You know, he tried the best he could, but he just couldn't make it pay. So he ran you both aground, then turned around and walked away. You've been waiting here for 50 years, no one set you free. You're broken down and dying, lying open to the sea, which was picking you to pieces down below. But the winter is upon you now, and time is passing slow, and the tides ebb and flow down below. Now the people come to stare at you with wonder in their eyes, for the days are past when men knew how to work a ship your size. On the seas you sailed, they're running black. In time we'll know the cost. It's too late now for you, but is it too late now for us? Can you teach us what you know before you go? And the winter is upon you now, and time is passing slow, and the tides ebb and flow down below, and the tides ebb and flow down below. Thank you. That is a lovely song, and I encourage you, if you're sick of looking at me, just Google the Wiscasset schooners, and you'll see some wonderful pictures of what they look like. It's well worth checking that out.
They used to have a great ice cream bar right at the dock where the schooners used to be, and you could go and look at the schooners and get an ice cream there back in the 70s.
It's still there.
Whoa!
Yeah, you can still do that. There's no schooners to look at, but the ice cream shack is still there. All right, schooners. More about schooners now. So, here's another poem that got turned into a song. And this one has a fascinating, to me, history because the song is about a rather dramatic voyage on a Grand Banks fishing schooner from Portland, Maine to Yarmouth, Nova Scotia in the middle of winter in 1912. And one of the great facts about this song is that the ship that the song's about is still with us. She was known back in 1912 as the F.E.M. Morrissey. She more recently has been called the Ernestina, and she's now going through a final refit to be launched as the schooner, the historic Massachusetts state schooner, the the Ernestina Morrissey. That's her new name, Ernestina Morrissey. So this is a poem written in the 19 teens, set to music by some unknown Nova Scotian, collected by Helen Creighton as a traditional song. But the poem was originally written by a man named Fred Wallace, who wrote a wonderful book called The Roving Fisherman, about his adventures on Grand Banks schooners back in the day when that was how people got most of their fish, in fact. But he writes a stirring lyric about this voyage, and whoever set the tune to it did a wonderful job. So we're going to hang on to your hats. It gets a little rough out there. We're going to take a ride on the Mary L. McKay. Come all you hardy-haddockers that winter fishing go, and brave the seas out on the banks in stormy winds and snow. All you who love hard driving, come listen to my lay of the run we made from Portland on the Mary L. McKay. We hung the muslin on her as the wind began to hum. 20 hardy Nova Scotia men, most full of Portland rum. Mainsail, foresail, jib and jumbo, and then one December day we passed off Cape Elizabeth and slugged for Fundy Bay. We lashed the hawser to the rack and cocked the cable box. We overhauled the shackles on the fore and mainsail blocks. We double-griped the dories while the gang began to pray for a breeze to tear the bits from out the Mary L. McKay. Well, storm along and drive along and punch her through the rips. Don't you mind a boarding combers as the solid green she dips. Just mind your eye and watch the wheel, the skipper he did say. Clean decks will sport tomorrow on the Mary L. McKay. Oh, we drove her by Matinas, we drove her by Monhegan as the wind began to scream. Our vessel took to dancing and away there was no dream. A howler o'er the taffrail, we steered southwest away. Ah, she was a hound for running, was the Mary L. McKay. Now the seas were looking ugly and the crests were heaving high. Our vessel simply scooped it till her deck was never dry. The cook he moused his pots and pans and unto us did say, you'll get nothing else but mug-ups on a Mary L. McKay. Oh, we slammed her by Matinicus as the skipper hauled the log. 16 knots on Harry, ain't she just the gal to jog? The half-can wheelsman shouted as he swung her on her way. Just watch me tear the mainsail off the Mary L. McKay. Our arm was passing merrily and the gang was feeling grand. The long nights dancing in our wake from where we'd left the land. The skipper he kept sober for he knew how things would lay, and he made us furl the mainsail on the Mary L. McKay. Under foresail, under jumbo, she towed wildly through the night. The foaming surge and white caps in the moonshine knit aside. 'Twould fill your heart with terror, boys, make you wish you were away, at home in bed and not aboard the Mary L. McKay. Over on the lurcher shoals, the seas were running strong, a pounding angry breakers from 3 to 4 miles long. And in that devil's horse-pun, boys, we soon had hell to pay. Ah, we didn't care a hoot for the Mary L. McKay. Oh, we lashed the wheelsman to the box rocks as he steered through the gloom. A big sea hove his dory mate right over the main boom. It tore the oil pants off his legs, and you could hear him say, there's a power of water flying on a Mary McKay. Oh, the skipper didn't care to make his wife a widdy yet, so he swung her off to Yarmouth Cape with just her foresail set. Put in past Fortune next morning and put in at break of day, and soon in sheltered harbour lay the Mary McKay. From Portland, Maine to Yarmouth Sound, to 20 miles we ran in 18 hours, my bully boys, now beat that if you can. The gang said 'twas seamanship, the skipper he kept mum, but the force that drove our vessel was the power of Portland rum.
Wow. God, I love Helen Creighton, and everything I hear from her is fabulous. Thank you for that.
Oh yeah.
10 minutes.
It's a wonderful story, and it's all true. I'm a big fan of true stories. And this next one,
you have 10 minutes to go.
okay, thank you. That gives me just enough time. So, I know it's a little early for lunch, but this is a song about food. Since we landed in Nova Scotia on board the Mary L. McKay just then, figured we might want to go out for a meal there in Yarmouth. So, but you got to be careful about what you eat in Nova Scotia, and this is a song about that. This was collected from a fisherman's songster in the 20s or 30s, I believe, and wonderful song about what they eat in Nova Scotia. You can tell a Nova Scotian by the fragrance of the ocean, for they always wear the perfume of that North Atlantic spray. But if you can't seem to smell 'em, there's another way to tell 'em, 'cause you'll always know a blue nose by his diet right away. What do we eat? Pickled herring, oysters when we're daring, and we often take a bake of hay, 'cause that's a dandy dish to make chowder fit for dolphin throwing, everything but scalping. And you ain't a Nova Scotian if you don't like fish. Oh, what we eats until we're bustin', most Albertans find disgusting, for it seems salt cod's upsetting to the dainty western tongue. And with faces hard and stony, they say herring's too darn bony, but there's nothing for dissolving bones like Nova Scotia rum. So we eat cod cheeks, cod tongues, even though the rod tongues, fish sticks, and digby chicks as dainty as you wish. We eat flatfish like the flounder and some others that are rounder, and you ain't a Nova Scotian if you don't like fish. You won't find no haddock fillets in them Manitoba skillets, and way out in Saskatchewan they don't know fish from beans. Down in Red River Valley they can't tell scallops from tamale, so you'll get no clams or salmon with your dandelion greens. Meanwhile, we're eating fin and hattie. It's good for lassie laddie, and the smoked deal will make you feel like dancing ish-a-tish. We cook up Salamagundi 27 ways from Sunday, and you ain't a Nova Scotian if you don't like fish. Now, lest there be a mix-up, there's just one thing I should fix up, for there's some that can't tell us from Newfoundlanders, tried and true. We eat halibut and kippers, but we don't eat seal flippers, and that's how you tell the difference, 'cause the Newfoundlanders do. We just eat mackerel, pollock, never give you colic if you wash down your tuna with a little drink of swish. We love a mess of shadroe, sardines, and Gasparro, and you ain't a Nova Scotian by the holy land of Goshen. You never seen the ocean if you don't like fish. I don't think they left a single edible species out of there. Maybe scallops. I don't know if they mentioned scallops, but all right. Couple more minutes. I'm going to do a modern song about the Grand Banks fishing. Because some of the older songs they can be a little incomplete. If you're a total history nerd like me, it doesn't. They leave out certain details and skim stuff over. But the advantage of modern singers and songwriters and historians is that they can put all that detail in. And so this is a song by my friend Rick Spencer called, what does he call this? Home by October. And it's about the Grand Banks fishing out of Gloucester. And he gets all the details in there. So you'll learn a lot just listening to this song. And it's a great song anyway. So Rick Spencer's Home by October. Oh, my name is Tom Henry, I'm from Duncan Street, Gloucester. Been a fisherman all of my life. Half of the time I spend out on the ocean, the other half home with my wife. Her eyes and the ocean are two just the same, so soft and so blue and so warm. But they'll change in a flash to a cloudy steel gray, and they'll blow out one hell of a star. Oh, it seems like a long time since last we were home, but it's likely not more than 2 weeks. For the days run together and we lose track of time. It don't mean much out on the banks. Here we measure our time by a trick at the wheel and what room we still have in the bin. And how long we'll be out doesn't mean a damn thing till we're full and it's time to go in. So lower the dories and ready your trawl with your toe pins and your gobstick and your nippers, it's all. Keep a good weather eye when you're out on the swell. We'll be home by October with a full hold if all things are well. It's a cold day on a gray sea as the dories move out like ducklings away from the schooner. And my dory mate and I in our oilskins and sweaters bait the hooks and line them to the water. And we lay at the trawl and row back for a mug up, soaked right through to the skin. Then it's back to the buoy to fetch out the trawl, row a half-ton of codfish back in. Don't she roll like a barrel when we're dressing them down? I'm so tired I barely can stand. The splits to the bins, all the rest in the gurry. Try not to cut off half of my hand. Then we're finally below at the end of the day for a pipe by the stove and a song. Then it's into your bunk, make the best of short sleep, for we'll be up again before dawn. To lower your dory and ready your trawl with your toe pins and your gobstick and your nippers and all. Keep a good weather eye when you're out on the swell. We'll be home by October with a full hold if all things are well. Oh, the wind always blows up when I'm in my bunk, and I wonder how the hell does it know. The captain, he raps on the hatch as he bellers, hear the news there below. And we take in the foresail, the jib and the main, in the teeth of a double reef wind. Pray the cable don't part as we ride out the storm, and thank God all the dories are in. For it's many a man has been lost on the banks in the fog and the wind and the rain. And many a schooner cut down by some steamer making fast passage on her way. We've lost fathers and brothers and mates to these waters, lost our men gone by the score. Nay, this trip be a short one, and pray we all live, have careless pleasures ashore, to again have our pleasures ashore. So lower your dory and ready your trawl, for the tow pins and your gobstick and your nippers and all. Keep a good weather eye when you're out on the swell. We'll be home by October with a full hold if all things are well. We'll be home by October with a full hold if all things are well.
Wow, that was beautiful, Jerry.
Thank you, Rick Spencer, for that one.
You have approximately 1 minute left. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us?
Well, due to a schedule conflict with the Daisies, I was supposed to do a set with them a little later today, but they couldn't make it, so I end up having to fill another 50 minutes, and I'm gonna focus more on down east and maritime, Canadian maritime songs. So if you haven't had enough of it yet, that's at 1 o'clock in the Witch of the Waves venue. I'd love to see you there too. But thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the rest of the festival, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, Jerry. That was beautiful.
You're welcome. Ciao. Oh, thank you.
If you'd like to unmute and cheers for Jerry, feel free.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.
My pleasure.